Hello, my name is Takoda. I'm the project supervisor for Angel's Nook. In this video, Mom is going to teach you how to make a painted surface look like wood. Stay tuned to see over 30 different options.
Sometimes it's kind of nice to see the trial and error process that goes into figuring out a technique. I absolutely know and have done a lot of blending colors with chip brushes and water to create driftwood looks, other faux wood finishes that I've created. Haven't tried a graining tool with it. So that's what this experiment is going to be, and we'll see how it goes. So the first thing I'm going to do is add some white on here. And I'm going to add brown. That was way more than what I wanted, but we blend it down. That's a newer chip brush, so it's not reacting the way I'd really prefer it to. A little bit of black. Normally, it's misting. I need a paper towel, please, because I'm not doing double duty on this one. I've got to get another chip brush from somewhere. Oh. This gives you a driftwood look with some grain lines created by your chip brush. I'm going to see what happens if I drag these That's the narrow one. Let's see what the wide one does. That's a very sharp grain look, like you might see in raw pine, but you don't normally see great big knots in these things. So the first thing I'm going to try doing is using a wide brush that is relatively stiff and just very lightly pull through this. And that is definitely softening the look of that grain while still leaving the color. The antiquing gel lets me have some work time with this. Got a little bit sticky there where it was drying out. Adding some water gets rid of that stickiness. I'm going to let this dry because I think a coat of stain over this will give the look of some grain in the wood without having these super light spots with it. And down here, this is because I didn't have space for, I wasn't working all the way into that frame. But you can see what happened with this. That to me is a more natural grain look than just rolling the pattern piece over it. This has dried. It's not a beautiful pattern right now, but you can see striations like grain. So what I'm going to do with it now to fill in some of this and soften this I'm going to add the brown antiquing gel over it. A little bit of water lets me smooth it without taking anything out of the lower layer because it's already dry. And now you've got the underlying of grain, but you don't have sharp lines with it, which looks like a more expensive piece of wood than pine. The colors that you use could totally change this up. The way in which you layer your undercolors makes a total difference. These are pieces of 2 white laminate shelves that have been, actually it was one big shelf that's been cut down into smaller pieces. This is 1 coat of tapestry. This is 1 coat of sea drift. So you can see the difference between the 2 of them. Tapestry is a noticeably lighter color. It makes a beautiful wash using 1-to-1 tapestry and water over raw wood to give you a finished look without it just being raw wood. The sea drift would also do that. It would be the warmer tone that this is. If you do a wash over raw wood, you need to put some type of top coat over it. There's just not enough finish in a wash to protect like the top of a wood tabletop. There's just not enough in a wash to do that, but you can get some beautiful colors. So what I'm going to do with these is show you layering colors and how you can change it, warm it, lighten it. I'm going to start with lighter tones and then go to some gray and then some warms. And we'll see how this works and what happens with it. It creates a bit of a driftwood look. Then you can choose to use a graining tool if you want to get some more lines and linear look underneath it with some grain. One thing though, if you're using a graining tool and you don't tone it down, that finish is going to scream that it was a fake finish. And the whole point of a graining tool or trying to do anything over paint is that you want it to look as natural as possible. So that's where we're going to start with this. I'm going to start with some whitewash. I'm barely dipping my chip brush in here, and I'm going in the direction, say if this was a wood tabletop that had been painted, but now you want it to look like it's wood, it needs to have the lines, the faux grain lines, going in the direction that the grain of the pieces of wood would be. So if you're not familiar with how that would go on your piece of furniture, take the time to Google furniture that is stained, that you can clearly see the grain lines. Now, if I wanted to, if all I wanted was a light tone with some grain in it, this is all I would need to do to this piece. I could stop right there and you can see what that looks like. If I want a hint of gray in it, and before I stop to think about this, people complain about chip brushes, the bristles coming out. Before you start using a chip brush, every time you go to use it, knock it back and forth in your hand so that you knock off any loose bristles that are in there. I prefer a chip brush that is more ragged, like this one. This one's new. It's not been worked in yet, but it will work for what I'm going to do today. I don't want a ton of gray in this, so I'm barely putting any in here. I just want to help it line up some tones. It's better to not get some on your brush than to get too much on your brush. This is weathered wood. And again, depending what you're looking for, maybe that's what you want it to look like. You can stop with just the weathered wood. I want to soften this just a little bit. I'm lightly misting the top of it. I'm going to pull my brush the entire length. And you can see that creates a much softer finish. That has more of a natural look of some wood that has weathered a little bit over time. Now I'm going to add some brown to it. You can see what happens with the vintage brown. Again, it's skim that surface. Don't put heavy amounts on here. When it's almost, when your brush almost has no paint left on it, that's the time to blend this. And where you see that it's not got what you need, add little bits. It's okay that it's not, you're just tapping different areas, because what you're going to do then is blend this out. And to help you blend it, again, hit it with that water. And you've got a warm toned finish here. If you wanted it darker, you wanted more brown on it, then you're going to go back and you're going to add more brown to the top. If it starts to drag, add some more paint, or the antiquing gel, because if you don't, you're going to start lifting what is already on here. I'm not saturating this with water. I'm just getting enough that my brush can glide over this. And now it's much warmer. I could add just some hints of black. Black you have to be very light-handed with, because a little goes a very long way. Spot over there that it started to lift a little bit. Put some brown back in it. I don't want extra black over there. And now you've got a tone that it's pulled it back to a much more neutral brown that can go with warm or cool, simply because those colors against each other are changing that tone. If I were doing a whole tabletop, say this whole piece was a tabletop, I would not go over the entire top with one layer of this. I would start with a band, probably 4 to 6 inches in on the length of the table, whichever way the grain goes. I would follow that direction, do like a 4 to 5 inch band of doing this all the way down the table. Come back, start another band, coming all the way down the entire length. If you do a block, like a chunk here, and then you go to do a chunk here, you're going to wind up with lap lines that are going to look awful on the tabletop or the top of the nightstand, whatever, or the dresser. You need this to go the entire length. If you're going to do this on, say, the front of a door, you need to work in sections of it. I prefer to work in the small insets on a door and then do the frame pieces, because they're the last pieces and they're the easiest to see that your brain is following the way it needs to be. But that's personal preference for how you want to do it. Now we're going to see what it looks like if you do this on, I'm going to set this aside because I'm going to get into it. What it's going to look like if I do the same thing over tapestry. I'm sorry, sea drift. So again, let's see what just white on here looks like. I don't know if you can see, that is a much sharper differentiation on there. So I'm not going to put a lot on here because I'm not liking how that's going to look as a finish with a heavy amount of the white over it. Missed it? If I was doing a tabletop, I would put antiquing gel out on a plate so that I could use a 3 or 4 inch wide chip brush. When you're working on a tabletop, you have to work along the side. Your arm will naturally do a curve. If you're trying to go down a line, it will naturally, what I call a windshield wiper look. You don't want that. So you would actually walk along the edge of the table, creating the lines. Now, by using very, very little, that's a very soft finish. If you wanted a very light but warm tone on the top of a piece. This color to me does not lend itself to adding the gray tones in. So I'm going to put brown as my next color on here. I may add a little bit of gray further down, but not yet. And you can see there's paint getting up on the bristles simply because I'm using it to blend. But you can see there's not much on my brush. At this point, because I'm not trying to cover this in a coat that I would wipe back. I want all these colors to blend together, because if you go and look closely at a piece of wood that has its natural grain showing, there are natural color changes in it all over it. It's not a solid color. There are highs and lows, and you want the same thing if you're trying to do a finish like this. Again, my brush has started to drag a little bit. Need a little bit of water. I trust putting it on the surface more than spraying the bristles, because it's very easy to get a very heavy wet spot that you do not want. This has created a very nice, warm look to it. Just to create some highlights, I'm going to add just a little bit of black in. Don't put tons. Easy to add to this. It's not easy to get it back off. Basically, you can wind up having to completely redo it. That has put just a little bit of visual texture into this without taking away the warmth. Now if I want it darker brown, I can go back and add more to it. You can see I'm randomly adding this in different areas on here. I'm not adding complete strokes anywhere on it. Now it's darker. I could let this dry And I could then add another coat of brown over it, or I could add one of the gel stains over it, applying it with a chip brush, wiping through it, depending on what the finished look is that you want. But for just water-based products, this is one set. I've got 2 more boards that I'm going to start in a different order with the colors to show you what happens with them. On this one, this is Tapestry as the base coat. I'm going to go in with more browns to vary this, and I'm thinking that this Tapestry is going to be the right lightness to let me get more of a pecan looking finish, which is another finish that goes really well with, it can go with neutral grays, but it also goes really well with the warmer tones that are currently coming out. So the first thing that I'm going to put on here is a little bit of the vintage brown antiquing gel. And this will lighten up in a few minutes when I start doing some other things. I need this on here to help with the next colors I'm going to add on to here. If I were doing a whole tabletop, the regular paint colors that I'm going to add onto this, I would most certainly blend in with tintable gel to give me some work time on it. What I'm going to be adding for some warmth and a little bit of a red tone, not a lot, is some brick. And then some of the goldenness of saddle. Because I'm working on a small space here, I can add the paint without worrying about it without worrying about it drying too fast on me. Add a little bit of saddle. And you'll see what this does. If you're planning on doing a table or shelves or anything, get a piece of scrap wood or even cardboard. So that you can blend colors and see if it's going to give you what you're looking for. You make curved lines in it, go back and try to straighten those. Now, this would dry very pretty the way it is right now. If that's a coloration that you like, stop at that point. I'm going to add just a touch of black. Use the smaller brush to do that, just to get this piece that came out. Get rid of it before I use it. Bristle rather. Add just a tiny amount of black to this. You see me sweeping my hand across this with nothing landing on the board. It's because I want to make sure that I just barely touch that surface so that I don't get too much on here. Use the brush I was blending with a minute ago, but I want to get most everything off onto the paper towel. And you can see that black is going away, except to just give some light highlights. A lot of times in a light on finish, you see some bits of black within it. And looking at that, I want just a little bit more. Means a little bit over here, here. Let's see what happens when I do this. Bristle, yes. Made a smudge there, but if you look, it will even right back out. As long as this is still moist. That blended more than I wanted. I need to add the black back in, mist it, and barely touch it. After I've misted it, get the color tone I want. It's pretty forgiving if you just keep working quickly. And you get a feel for whether or not there's still enough paint to make another swipe before you stop. Part of the reason that this one is acting a little bit differently than the others is because I have some regular paint in here that does not have gel base to it. And I'm happy with the results of that. So I'm going to let it dry. This one I'm going to work a little bit differently. This is the sea drift, and I want to go for a much darker tone. I'm going to start with black with it. Like what happened right there. I'm removing it while I still can. Next layers after this, it would be very hard to do that. Now, before I do anything else with it, I'm going to add vintage brown to it. Most of the brown off with that brush. I saw it starting to lighten more than I wanted. Add a little bit more brown. Now then, I need to stop working on this right now because I've got enough water on here and enough layers of this with the thickness of it that it needs to dry before I do anything else to it, or all of these lines that I've created to give it a more natural look of wood are going to get all muddied together and it's just going to become a solid color. So this is going to dry overnight, both boards, and then I'm going to look and see tomorrow after they're dry, because both the fact that I've added water and I'm working primarily with antiquing gels, those take longer to dry. I'm going to let this dry overnight and then look at it and see, do I want more brown over it, or do I like how it's dried out too? So we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. These are the 4 boards that were done yesterday. They are in different tone levels. This one has more gray to it here in person. This one is more the pecan. This is more neutral brown, like the tobacco stain would be if you were staining. This one is a light, warm brown. What I'm going to show you today is what happens if you add an additional layer of antiquing gel over this, not using the brush technique that I was using yesterday, but applying it to soften all the lines on here and also change the tonality. The board that I added the brick and saddle to, we're going to show you some close-ups of for why you do not, on like a large piece, the top of a table, whatever, want to use paint with the antiquing gels to create this finish unless you have mixed it with the tintable gel. You're going to be able to see that this did some odd looks in it. It's because of the paint and the tintable gel were not smoothly blending into each other, because the paint did not have tintable gel in it to help it make that smooth transition that, say, this board did, making the lines. And it shows up more after it dries, so you could be doing it wet and go, oh, you know, she's nuts, it's working fine, I don't need to do that. And then you see it dry, and you're like, oops, now how do I fix this? So one of the things I'm going to show you is how you can fix something that this has happened to without sanding, without having to go back and start it all over again. So that's where we're going to go today. The first thing I'm going to do is show you on this one how I can make it more gray, or what will happen if I make it lighter with some whitewash. So I'm going to leave part of it as is. I'm going to use a section of it with weathered wood and a section of it with whitewash. And then each of these, I'm going to look at different ways that you can change things on it to continue to change the finish until you've got what you want. Primary thing you have to remember, when you're experimenting, say on another board or on cardboard, write down the order in which you applied the gel stains. If you don't, you will forget, and you will not get the same look again when you go to put it on your piece of furniture. By keeping track of that, you know exactly what you did to get your final look, and then if it's cabinet doors, if it's a piece of furniture, if it's a tabletop, you know you're going to get exactly the same look as what you had with your sample piece. And it's also why you don't want to try to do a tabletop just cold turkey without having tried a sample first. So let's see what we can do with this one. Just to let you see where these started, this is white laminate shelving. Laminate's one of the worst there is to have to deal with painting. It's changed from this white laminate to these finishes so far, and now we're going to do additional finish work on these from where they are now, for the ways that you can change it even further. For this first piece that was lighter with some of the gray tone, I've used yellow frog tape to tape off 2 sections so that I can apply some antiquing gel over this to show you what happens when you soften it with a color or you just want to change the tonality to it. I only pressed down the yellow tape along the edge that I'm going to paint up against. This is still curing, and especially your antiquing gels, are more susceptible to lifting initially because they have a longer dry time. And anything over laminate, which you saw, that is what these shelves are made out of, is going to need more time to dry before it becomes rugged for use. Eventually, after the cure time, it's going to be as indestructible as anything else. You put the paint over, but it needs that extra time and a little more TLC. So the first color I'm going to apply is some weathered wood down here to show you what graying this more looks like. And I'm going to say to you, do as I say and not as I do on this. Because I'm doing short sections and I'm experienced using paper towels in small sections on things, I know I can use it to wipe this back and not leave any lint or any of the diamond pattern of the paper towel. But if I were doing a whole piece of furniture or cabinets, I definitely would not use paper towels. I'm doing it to efficiently get these small sections changed so that you can see what the finish does. You literally wipe with whatever you're using until you get the look and the amount of coverage that you want. But that has substantially grayed this. If I wanted less, I could mist this with water and lift some of it off. The next one I'm going to do is down here. I'm going to add whitewash. This would look like an older driftwood. This will also look like driftwood, but it will be a softer tone, a whiter tone, as though it's had some bleaching. All of these gels have been stirred off camera. Never use them without stirring them. Don't shake them, stir them. That way you know you've gotten everything up from the bottom, that you have the top coat and the gel all together. There's a happy medium to how hard you wipe. Get off what you need to come off with this. If I were on a tabletop, I'd be going both ways, or a cabinet door. I'm trying not to get into the center section. And again, if you wanted more to come back off, you could remove it. Well, that's why you don't want to take something too soon. So, perfect example of why when somebody says, wait 48 hours before, or 72 hours before taping anything, this is why. If this was fully cured, that would not have happened. But you can see the tone changes on this. You can also see that adding it softens the lines on this. And in fact, on this one down here, I am going to mist it and lighten it up some, because I think it's got too much white to it. Use a brush tone. Oh yeah. Much better. And that's one of the things that's so cool about the antiquing gels, is they're very forgivable this way. Now, that is a much better tone and a much better look. But those are things you have to quickly think about while you're working or while you're doing a practice board. Which way do I like this best? So, those are done. We're in darker light to give you better images of these boards. This is the one that I used brick and saddle with the antiquing gels. And if you look at it, you can see that the striations are a little more splotchy. That's because the paint did not have the tintable gel under it. I definitely, on a large project, would not do adding paint without mixing it with the tintable gel, which is available from HTP. So what I'm going to do on this one is just further warm it. And I'm going to do that by adding vintage brown over this, which will also help hide what the paint did in this. I'm not going to do the whole board at one time. In fact, I'll do half of it. Wasn't thinking about it. We'll see what the difference is between these. I'm not taping it because I don't want this finish to lift, so you're not going to get straight lines of where this finishes and where it doesn't. Now, for some people, what I have right here is a good change. It's warm, it's dark, but it's really muting any of those pecan tones. So I'm going to pull it back, following the grain line. Always follow the grain line. On the countertops, you use a circular motion, but where you're trying to create a wood look, you do not want to do that. That's a light touch, getting what I want off of here. And this is now, camera will pick it up. That is much smoother. It looks more natural, and it's much warmer. So we'll go on to the next one. This one is not one I would add gray or white to. It's not going to meld well with these colors. This one is already dark, but I'm going to leave a section in the middle here. As the original, I'm going to darken this end with some black and brown, this end with just some brown, so that you're getting more of an espresso look. Doing the same thing with a cloth on a tabletop or a cabinet door will help you fold it into a square, even if you have to cut pieces up, because you do not want a cloth dragging across where you've already worked, and you don't want thick and thin spots if you're trying to keep the natural wood look on it. On this end, I'm going to do black first, and then I'm going to add some brown into it. Because black is so intense, I'm actually blending it on with the brush. I'm not putting much on, and I'm blending it in. With that, that might be all you wanted. You might want this really dark, almost black look. But you can add brown into it. And because of how nicely that blended together, I'm not going to wipe that back. I'm going to leave it as is to let it dry, to be a really deep, dark, stained look. This one was warmer already. It's similar to the first one, except there's no gray in this one. So this one, I'm going to add brown. I'm also going to add white down here because I'm going to show you several things with this. If you're working on cabinets or tables, you cannot do a whole tabletop with adding this on and then coming back and wiping it. It will not wipe off evenly. As I've said before, if I were doing a long tabletop, I would be walking along it, smoothing it, and not trying to apply it with long arm reach. And I'm going to add a little bit of gray down here and some black. Let you see what happens. you can still see a good amount of brown through that. That is black, just blended. The last thing I'm going to do is add some brown over both. Oh, don't want to do that. It's colored wood. I am in the dark here too. White and back. You can see how many different tones you can create depending on what you do with it, whether you wipe it back, whether you blend it, whether you leave it with heavier coverage. It's total options for play with it till you get the color you want. If you have a piece that you're trying to match closely, look at the color tones. What are the colors in the finish? You can actually look up and Google what stains create what colors and look at the color itself to see how it's going to work. I have all the gels on hand and most of the paints and stains simply because I've been using the products for over 7 years. Not because they furnish them to me, because they don't, and I get nothing for sharing this information with you. I just simply believe in the products and I think you should know how to use them to create different effects for your own home. Thank you. From starting with a piece of white laminate, at this point with all the boards, there are 14 different color variations here right now. And that doesn't count all the different variations that I showed you along the way. So basically the sky is the limit for how you want to mix, how you want to layer to get exactly the color tone that you want, exactly the look that you want. And all of these, once they are dried, once they have cured, they're very rugged, they hold up really well. If you wanted to, you could put a different type of top coat on it. A top coat would not be needed, but you could. So you could pick the sheen of your choice or your final top coat. There will also be coming up, I'm going to be doing something very similar with the oil-based products to show you how that the oil stains can be mixed and blended and used to create a lot of different colors as well. The other thing that you can do is this is not limited to just trying to make a faux wood. If you wanted to add tintable gel to any of the colors of HTP, you could do blends like this, or you could add a little bit of color into the top of something where that you wanted to have an artifact on the top of the table. You could do it with colors. So it's just, hopefully this technique will give you a lot of inspiration to be creative in what you want to do for your own pieces, your own projects, and have fun with it. Thank you.
Hey you, get out of my way! Coming through. I'm curious. Do you like what my mum and pa are doing with this YouTube channel? Do you want to see them do more videos like this? If so, I have something to say about it. Mom and Pa are working their butts off here. Do it, do it! Clickety-click the buttons! Hey, I've been looking everywhere for you guys. So sorry, when I take my humans to the park for training, I get so excited that sometimes I can't control myself, and Pa has to censor my pictures. Oops, he missed one. They obviously need more training.
Mommy, you need to talk to Papa. He forgot to cover me. Wee wee.